Good afternoon, my name is Alan Gamble. Welcome back to another episode of Aussie Box Office Charts. So let's dive in to the top 10 this week. Holding strong at number 1 is Mad About the Boy, Bridget Jones, with another $1.8 million, with a 36% drop after 3 weeks, for a current total of $12.1 million. Captain America Brave New World holds number 2 spot again, with $1.4 million after 3 weeks, with another 42% drop, with a current total of just over $11 million. Nizar 2 holds at number 3 with $739,000, a 51% drop on last week, for a current total of $6.3 million. The Monkey holds strong at number 4 after 2 weeks of release, a 31% drop, with a current total of just over $1.1 million. And A Complete Unknown jumps back up into 5th spot after 6 weeks of release, a 24% drop, with a current total of $7.5 million. Continuing on with 6 through 10, as we have a pretty short and sweet week this week, with not too many changes in the top 10. Conclave holds at number 6 with another $239,000 after 8 weeks of release, a 5% gain on last week, with a current total of $7.6 million. Shavar holds 7th position again, with a current total of $1.4 million, another 45% drop, with $236,000 added this week. I'm Still Here at position number 8, one that I went and caught on Friday night, at number 8 with $195,000. Now, it says after 4 weeks of release, because it has been in limited release for the last few weeks at like a handful of screens, but it went wide in Australia this week. So its expansion brought in $195,000 for a $422,000 total, a 386% increase on the previous week. So you can tell how much it was making, just small amounts here and there. But a lot of people went to see that, as it's now an Oscar-winning movie. Mufasa, The Lion King, at number 9 after 11 weeks of release, with another $166,000. For a current total of $28.5 million. And In the Lost Lands, the latest movie from Paul W.S. Anderson, in 10th spot, scrapes into the top 10 with $155,000 as a new release. We'll take a little bit of a look into the history of Paul W.S. Anderson's box office releases a little later on in this video. But for now, its new release scrapes in to the top 10. I did put a full review of this movie up if you are more curious as to my thoughts. I believe it goes wide globally this weekend. So Australia got this one early, so that's why I was keen to get out a review of my thoughts, although in hindsight, maybe I wish I didn't. Taking a quick update look at Captain America Brave New World in relation to Aussie MCU tracking. And we can see that Captain America Brave New World has finally outgrossed both now the Marvels and Captain America the First Avenger at $10.1 million, with it's just over $11 million. It's now got to close the gap on Black Widow with its $13.2 million and Eternals with its $14.9 million. Is it going to get there? It is slowing down about 40 to 50% per week, so we will see. If we take a look at MCU total gross by phase, we can see where Captain America Brave New World sits at the end, and it looks like it's going to sit around that low point of Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which is not the high point of the franchise. If we compare that to other releases from that same year, we had obviously Spider-Man No Way Home, never going to achieve that. But I think it would have more preferred to be around that Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever range of movies, rather than where it's going to end up. But we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it as we go forward and into Thunderbolts territory later in the year. Continuing the fairly uneventful week, There are 0 positional changes in the 2025 top 10 of the Australian box office this week, with everything remaining as still, with just the amounts tightening or closing or changing up a little bit. So Paddington in Peru still at number 1 at 17.4, Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boys still at number 2 at 12.1, and Captain America Brave New World still at number 3 with just over $11 million. Nosferatu still at number 4 with 7.9, and Conclave closing that gap with $7.6 million. A Complete Unknown also closing the gap on those two with $7.5 million. We Live in Time at $6.6 million. Nizar 2 at number 8 catching up with $6.3 million. Baby Girl hanging around at number 9 at $3.33 million. And at number 10, Den of Thieves 2 Pantera at $2.6 million. No changes this week. And with the top 10 done, let's take a bit of a dive into Paul W.S. Anderson movies throughout Australian opening history. Now, going back this far, historical records for box office tracking become really, really spotty in Australia. So I was able to manage to track down some things from 2004, 2012, and then 2017 onwards is fairly okay and fairly consistent. So if we take a quick look at the movies I was able to track down how large they opened opening weekend in Australia, back in 2004, Alien vs. Predator opened to just over $3 million. And later that same year, Resident Evil Apocalypse opened at $1.25 million. Resident Evil Apocalypse was the second Resident Evil movie after the original Resident Evil from 2002. Resident Evil Retribution in 2012, which was the fifth Resident Evil movie, opened to $1.385 million in 2012. Resident Evil The Final Chapter in 2017 opened to just under $1.2 million. Monster Hunter, Paul W.S. Anderson's most recent movie apart from In the Lost Lands, in 2021 opened to $877,000. And In the Lost Lands 2025 opened to $155,000. So in terms of Paul W.S. Anderson movies in Australia, opening weekend, In the Lost Lands is quite considerably, by a far margin, his worst performing movie. Where will he go from here? I'm not sure, but we will see. I'm sure it will have Mila Jovovich in it, whatever he does next. Alright, let's take a quick look at what's coming up this week in theatrical releases and streaming. And starting with wide releases for the 6th of March, we have the long-awaited, for myself at least, and probably a lot of other people, Mikey 17, a repeatedly delayed and pushed, I think it's had 6 different release dates at this stage. It's the latest film from Bong Joon-ho, the acclaimed director of Parasite and Okja, as well as Snowpiercer. This Mikey 17 is based on the novel from Edward Ashton. That one is something I will be catching straight away. Next up, we have Hard Truths from Mike Leigh. Picked up several awards from different ceremonies this award season, with a strong performance from Marianne John Baptiste. And lastly is One of Them Days, a quite well-received comedy from director Lawrence Lemon. In limited release, so these ones are coming out, but you may have to track them down in different cinemas in your local area. We have, first up, Spit, a local Australian film from Jonathan Tepsinski, starring David Wenham, about a guy that finds himself locked up in an immigration detention centre on his return to Australia. Next up, The Colours Within, a Japanese anime about a student that has the ability to see the colours of others. And lastly is Jesus Christ Superstar, the musical, a live stage presentation of a well-regarded musical that has many, many releases, but this is the most recent iteration. And across on the streaming front, we only have on 5th of March, Daredevil Born Again. It returns, or it's season 1 of the rebooting of the Netflix Daredevil series, with a lot of the same cast. Whether the story continues on exactly, we have no idea. But I'm definitely curious. It's the resurrection of the Netflix Marvel series that I'm genuinely curious to see if it will deliver or not. But I will be checking it out because I loved the first couple of seasons of Netflix's Daredevil series. How will it compare to other MCU TV shows that have been a lot of hit and miss, if we're being honest? I'm curious to check it out. So I can't wait for that one. And touching on what I ended up watching for last week's Cinechums Movie Challenge of accessories, with a total of 5 movies I ended up with. First was a rewatch of Black Widow from 2021 as part of a lead up to Thunderbolts. I was like, hey, I may as well give it a rewatch, which was still fine. Up next was a 2017 short film from Philip McKee in Breaker, which you can find on YouTube. I'll link that in the description below. A short cyberpunk indie film, which I'm getting into enjoying more short films, just as a, point of, hey, let's check something out quickly. Next up was In the Lost Lands, with all its hoods and its skins, which I did put out a full review of up on the channels recently, so if you want to know more about my thoughts on that movie, you can check that out. And lastly was a pair of movies from hidden gems of the 2020 projects I'm working on for this channel. It's going to take a while to get it done though. But starting with Old Henry from 2021, a slow burn western from Pozzi Ponsorelli. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was worthy to be on my Slow Gems discovery list. So hopefully, if you're curious, check that out or wait until my Hidden Gems movie comes out. And my pick of the week was also from that project, The Half of It from 2020 by director Alice Wu. While it started like a teen romantic comedy with the trappings of Cyrano de Bergerac, it flips and transforms into far more of a feel-good coming-of-age movie with a lot of heart, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think it absolutely is warranted to be becoming a hidden gem, but let's check out this week's challenge. Taking a look at this week's Cinechums Movie Challenge, it's 2025 Oscars in Memoriam. So, anything from Gene Hackman, anything he's been in, Donald Sutherland, Maggie Smith, Earl James Jones, anyone that was in the In Memoriam section, as well as anyone else in Hollywood that passed away this last year that wasn't mentioned in the Oscars In Memoriam section. We have a few examples here, but let's dive into my shortlist for this week. My shortlist includes things like The Conversation, Ad Astra, Judge Dredd, Doctor Strangelove, Midnight Cowboy's a high contender, as it's been on my list for a long time, Mysterious Skin, Heathers, and Annie Hall. And that is it for me this week. I was going to try and catch Mikey 17 this weekend, as well as One of Them Days, but unfortunately, Brisbane has a tropical cyclone blaring down on it, targeting for Friday morning. So I will try and catch those if cinemas happen to be open this weekend. Otherwise, stay safe out there if you are up in Brisbane. Good luck, and I will see you all again next week, where we will probably have a fairly suppressed box office, but we'll get into that next week, and I will see you all then. Bye!